Again, hello everybody. This is Donnie Vaughn. I'm sitting here with Randy Vaughn of YourSchoolMarketing.com. Today's webinar, 9 Elements to a Stunning Visual Strategy. We're excited to share a lot of content, a lot of information with you today. Before I do begin, I want to encourage everybody to go visit edsocialmedia.com. You can get to it, actually, you'll see on the screen there, YourSchoolMarketing.com/ESM, an article that Randy did as part of a guest article series. An article he wrote recently called Friday Night Football, a Modern Mobile Marketing Marvel. It's a great view of looking at the uniqueness of Friday Night Football. That's big here in Texas, and it's big in a lot of other places. And looking at how we can take mobile marketing and apply that to a Friday Night Football event. And we're very excited about that article. I'd love for you to take a look at that. Make sure you comment, share it. Do whatever you can to let people know about that, because we think it's really exciting that Randy got to do that guest article. Real quickly, we want to encourage you on Twitter to follow us at SchoolMKTG. Also, if you are on this webinar and you want to post anything we talk about on Twitter, you can also do this also on Instagram. Use our hashtag SM4Schools, and we'd love for you to do that. Again, we're going to be talking today about 9 elements to a stunning visual strategy. With that, I'm going to turn the microphone over to Randy Vaughn of YourSchoolMarketing.com.
All right, Donnie, thank you very much. And I really hope that you go and visit the article, because on the edsocialmedia.com, which, like Donnie said, it's YourSchoolMarketing.com/ESM for Ed Social Media. But you can get there and read that, because a lot of what we're going to be talking about today really impacts a lot of our just normal social events that we do with schools. And so Friday Night Football is certainly, probably for some of you, it is a significant event. Others maybe don't have football, but you have basketball coming up soon, or you have other events, even theater, and some of the things like that that we often don't, we are not optimizing those events like we should in terms of social media. We need to be using some of the features that we've been given out in the social platforms to be able to, really a lot of it is that idea of socializing what we are doing and taking our campus out to our audience, and taking the events that go on our campus, or that our campus or school is involved with, and taking it to our audience. And so that's what we're going to be talking a lot about today. And so I encourage you to go to that article. So let's jump into this, because we are going to be pressed for time to get all this in. As we always do, we always try to pack a lot into these webinars. And I do hope you'll go back and listen to the recordings of the other webinars on the 3 keys to understanding social media. That's more of a high-level overview. And then the 5 ways to get more likes on your Facebook page for your school. Those are great webinars. I think you'll find some useful information in here. So as we get into understanding a visual content strategy for your school, let's understand that we live in a visual culture. And there's no doubt that, I guess in some ways we've always been a visual culture, but as we get online now, we have so much more to consume, so much more to look at in our, whether it's on our desktop or iPad or in the palm of our hand. We have so much more to look at. So we take the old adage of a picture is worth 1,000 words, and that still rings true, because when you can showcase in an image, and we'll talk about video of course as well, but an image, a graphic image, a photo image, whatever kind of image we'll talk about today, that tells a lot. And as we get into this discussion, we're going to talk about the idea of what it is that we're doing when we're creating a visual content strategy. And so now again, I heard this the other day. It's easier to look at 1,000 pictures than to read 1,000 words. And if you know me, that's probably my thing, is I would much rather look at 1,000 pictures than have to look at a 1,000-page book. But even if you love reading, the idea is we can scroll through really fast. Now, some of you are really good at swiping your phone and flipping through your news feed and seeing these images that come into your social stream, wherever it is, whether it's Pinterest or Instagram or Facebook, and certainly there's some other things we'll talk about in Tumblr and Twitter, and we'll mention a few of those. There's so much going on, and so many of us use multiple platforms, so we are inundated with visual, and so we are a visual culture. And so now let's get into the idea, because this is what we're, when we're talking about visual culture, one of the things that we get hooked up on is these words, and you'll see these words a lot. Somebody say, "Oh, we need to create more content that goes viral." Somebody will come out and say, "Hey, we need to create a viral video," and that's just a funny thought to me. Is that you can't create a viral video. Viral videos are things that happen, and you don't necessarily create them. Now, there's some things that you can do with a video, or a lot of times it is video. You can have some elements to it, some characteristics of that content that help it go viral, but you don't create a viral video. Matter of fact, if you try too hard to create a viral video, you simply will fail because it'll be too forced. Part of the nature of viral videos is it just catches on, and we're not sure exactly sometimes what it is that does this. But you see all these words all the time. Share this, be contagious. The idea of creating buzz. I mean, we're obsessed with this idea of going viral and letting things catch on. And in some extent, we all want to be the next Gangnam Style video, or sometimes it's the cat doing some funny playing drums or something like that. But we're going to be talking about more important things than that. And today I wanted to introduce you what we really want to talk about is people sharing stories of other people. And you, at your school, you're sharing at the essence of a visual content strategy inside of a visual culture is understanding that we have got to share stories, and those stories can be individual stories, it can be a collective story of your school, but in reality we can create all kinds of goofy content that might get a few likes, and I call it kind of cheap content that get cheap likes because you get some people liking it on Facebook, or they'll retweet it a few times, or double tap it on Instagram, all those kind of things. And really it's some content that it may be part of your strategy, but really what we want, the stuff that really is going to go deeper into your, what we call marketing hourglass, or what's traditionally been the marketing funnel. We want this content that takes people deeper into that funnel, is the real stories. And so we want to talk about that today, just keep that at the forefront of our mind, I guess. When we're talking about a visual content strategy, is understanding that everything we're doing is sharing the stories on our campus. It is connecting those stories with current families, because you're always thinking about re-enrollment, retention efforts. So you're looking for ways to reinforce the values, the stories, the things that go on your campus. You're wanting to reinforce that with your existing families. But also you want to communicate clearly to that audience of prospective families. You want to keep them in mind. One of the things that I often see with schools when we work with them is that it is very easy to talk an internal language. It's very easy to want to put up a photo of maybe everybody's favorite science teacher and say, "Hey, click like if you love this guy." And of course all the internal folks will go around clicking it because they all know who that person is. But if you're external, it really not only just doesn't make sense to me, it almost keeps me excluded. And in an environment where a lot of times private schools have this, already a reputation for exclusion sometimes, we got to be more inclusive in our content. Identify who these people are, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later on. But the idea is we've got to be people who reach out not only just to our internal audiences, but we've got to be thinking who are our prospective families, and what are they, when they look at our visual content strategy, what are they seeing? And what we want them to see is we want them to hear and see those stories. So let's get into some of these important elements of a visual content strategy. And the first one is strategy. So we've got to have a strategy in place. And so I wanted to walk you through really what I consider kind of three basic elements that would be important to have in your social media strategy, but particularly your visual content strategy. but this works across the board in all social media. You've got to know your audience. You've got to know who you're talking to. I just mentioned it. You have an audience of internal players, people who are already on your campus, but again, you've got about, and I'll just use generally, let's say 20% of your campus will absolutely be your best loyal ambassadors out on social media. They are liking everything, commenting on things, they're sharing things, they're telling their friends, they're tagging you, they're hashtagging you, they're all in, and that's important. But there's a big gap of people sometimes who are kind of on the fence, the internal folks who maybe year to year it's a decision, it's a questionable in your mind whether or not they're going to re-enroll or not. These are the people that we're really targeting a lot of times with our social media. We're using that social media to reinforce to them the value of your school and the stories that go on, maybe some things that they didn't even know that go on. Maybe they didn't, that you want to put them inside of the larger story of your school. So you got to know your audience, know who they are. And because you have two different audiences, internal and external audiences, you've got to think when you're posting things about that. You don't have to include every single post has to target both of them, but you want to have a mixture of posts and content that goes out that reaches into both of those audiences. So you need to know the audience, know what behaviors they have, and we're going to get into that. Secondly, is you got to understand this audience. So you name them and you've identified kind of who they are, but now you kind of, what do they like? What are their interests? What do they value? And this will help you create the kind of, especially visual content, and this goes across the board, just a general marketing principle. It will help you. I was talking to a school yesterday about the idea of creating targeted content that is specific to targeted audiences. So once you target an audience, now you can create targeted content if you understand what's important to them, what are their values. And when we create the content that is of interest to them, then they will follow this. And so whenever you're on social media, a lot of times you have to keep in mind they didn't get on social media, they didn't open up a Facebook account just so they could follow you. They didn't get on Instagram just so they could follow their school. They're probably not even thinking of it. They're going on Instagram or they're on Pinterest because they're following their friends or they're wanting just content that's going to enrich their personal life. So you got to think about what's important to them and then how can we contribute good quality content to that. And then lastly is creating the kind of, I think, of content that offers some solutions. Two things that I think here, it doesn't always have to be a solution related to education. It could be. So you create some content and you can do some visual content that might even be some video content that helps some of families understand maybe how to, you could do some really simple content just related to maybe some of your math teachers out there doing some YouTube content on some basic algebra or something like that, and you want to create content about that. You might want to do a little video about creating how to have better study habits or how to apply for financial aid at college. You can direct your kind of content around that, and so your visual content strategy needs to offer solutions. But sometimes those solutions don't always have to do with education. It may just be that you know the values and behaviors and interests of your audience, and you create content that offers them solution around that. So you might, let's just take a basic example. You could, no reason why if you're, creating, maybe some apps that help. You could do any number of things. You could even say, hey, we know a lot of you drive in long distances, so here's a video that we found on YouTube that helps you get better gas mileage. It's things like that are non-school related, but you're being what we call useful. And so you want to create content that is enriching to them, useful to them, and then ultimately, like I said, you want to make a social connection to them. So you don't always have to be about promoting yourself. You want to, as a matter of fact, if you go back to listen to the first webinar, the 3 keys to understanding social media, you'll hear us say a big sin of social media that we often commit in the social media world is we talk about ourselves too much. And you probably talk about yourself too much. So you need to go back and start posting content that enriches the lives and makes a better social connection to your audience. And so if you understand that as your strategy, I think that's going to help you create the kind of content that you want on a visual content. So let's just go through some other elements. because some of the things you just need some tools. So we're going to get into the first one, okay? This is number 2. Yeah, Donnie's keeping me on track here because we don't have these numbers. We want to think about actually how do we capture the content we want, the visual content? How do we come up with it? So there's obviously a number of things with photos. I mean, we are it's surprising within just about a decade or two, particularly, we have gone from only certain experienced photographers had the money for a camera, and then we went to, of course, cameras have evolved into being very user friendly and over the decades. But when in terms of social content, we are now in a position where very few people in this world, maybe not this world, obviously. I was in Africa this summer, and they had cell phones, but they didn't have the ability to do a lot of video or photos with it. But very few people in your world probably are not without a smartphone of some sort that can create instant content, photos, and we'll talk about videos. But then there's other more advanced things. There's tools that allow you to have special microphones that'll plug into your iPhone. You can do little tripod stands that are really nice. I mean, we've got tools, even more advanced cameras, that allow us to capture content. Video content, certainly you can have, maybe some of you have equipment like this, or you know somebody who will let you borrow more heavy-duty equipment to capture video. But often case, it is more of the video that's more of the smaller video camera that's both a dual camera, I guess you got a DSLR, is that what the term is? That allows you to create some video too. But also, you just got it in the palm of your hand. So many smartphones have that ability to create video. But also, even as this picture shows, our webcam gives us an ability to create content. So now we start thinking, okay, we've got the tools in place to capture this content. So now we begin to work through these elements of what are we doing with this. And so the third element that we need to have, we have tools, right? Oh, that's right. This, as you think through, you've got to think through that as we're snapping this stuff. In the old days, you've got to keep in mind that, especially as a school, I see so many people snapping photos and things, and you think more of it as a yearbook. In other words, you're thinking more for the internal audience. You snap a bunch of photos of things that are going to be more of a scrapbook for your internal audience. But we've got to think beyond that. We've got to move beyond thinking about just as a yearbook and thinking more as a publisher. A publisher is looking for a broader audience, and certainly using social media as a marketing tool, our visual content strategies got to include more of this idea of creating content for a much broader audience than just our internal family. So we definitely want us to think about this when we're creating and capturing the content. So now let's get into, and the next tool is just number 3, is what do we do with this content? When we get it, we store it. These are just some of the practical things we need to know and understand. We want to, as we look at some things, there's a lot of places to put. We'll deal with photos first. Many of you use things like Flickr or Picasa or Shutterfly, SmugMug. Some of these things are very, you're using this to, when you go on a field trip and you're taking photos and you put the content into one of these photo sharing sites. But some of you don't know all the different tools, so what we've done is create a short link that will allow you to go to this really well done article on another site. This will take you there. So we've created this. Go to our website, yourschoolmarketing.com/photo storage. If you'll type that in, it redirects you to an article that I found that is really, really good, and it outlines all the different types, I mean, much more than that's listed here, of the different places that you can put your photos, and even stuff in the cloud. And so it's really well done. I think it's going to help explain it. So just go to yourschoolmarketing.com/photo storage. Okay, so now let's get into the idea of video. So now we look at basically 2. Now there's other channels out there that you can do, but let's just address the 2 biggest players in this game, and that is Vimeo or YouTube. Both of those are prominent video sharing sites, channels that are out there for your use. They do not cost anything to create. They take some time to customize them according to your brand of your school, and I would encourage you to do that. But there's always a question in people's minds: should I create a YouTube channel or a Vimeo channel? And I would suggest there's another way to look at this, and that is both. You need to have both. Now, there's some different ways you could do both. I would not duplicate the content at all, but I think there's value in either one. Let's take Vimeo. I like Vimeo because it seems to be, and this seems to be the characteristic that is told to us by people, is they just like, it seems like a cleaner look when they're displaying it. And so a lot of people like Vimeo. So you might want to put some of your content on Vimeo, maybe some of your videos that showcase at your school that you'll be putting, for a more global audience, something more, a global message, maybe a bigger video that you produced. You may want to put that on to Vimeo. You may want to do a greeting from your head of school. Again, something really, kind of a more important video, I guess I should say, and that's kind of the way I'd characterize that is put it on Vimeo. Maybe you get a cleaner look. But keep in mind, the other side of the aisle, YouTube is, I think, the number 2, or it's certainly in the top 3 search engines, probably out there behind just Google, and YouTube is part of Google. So it's just, and when you're thinking about search engine and being found, and I mean, it seems kind of like a no-brainer that we should be on YouTube as well. There's a lot of things we can do with YouTube, and so I would certainly create a channel related to that. So I think when you're looking at a place to have where you're going to put these videos, I would suggest for a lot of the videos that you take, I would upload them to one of these 2 channels. If you go to our YouTube channel, it's yourschoolmarketing.com/YouTube, which you can go to it. You can click on it from our website. You can see what we've done with our YouTube channel. It's still got some work to do, and we're always trying to keep things updated. But one of the things that we've done is doing a lot of educational videos, how-to videos, instructional videos, even short ones like 5 minutes long. So there's some things that we've done to, again, address the needs of our audience, thinking back to our audience, thinking about what's important to them, what they need, and we're trying to create the content that meets that need. So you adapt your content to your audience and think, what do they look at? So you could do certainly a lot of things related to admissions, and maybe do a short 3 to 5 minute explanation, thinking of all the things that you talk about in a tour or an open house, or even on the phone, maybe the frequently asked questions, and create some videos related to that. Even as you see our video channels, you don't even see our faces that much on them. So you could create screencasts of different instructional or informational content that would be really helpful to your audience. And so another question that comes up a lot of times, in addition to Vimeo and YouTube, is what to do with videos. Should we post them directly to Facebook or put them on YouTube first? And so I found this article, and it's really, I think it's recent, as of maybe August of 2013, so about a month old, and it's from a group called Social Bakers. I didn't have the exact link, so you might look up Social Bakers, and if you type in this, I know this is the way I found it, is I Googled whether or not you should put Facebook videos in or YouTube, so that's how I found this. But I thought it was interesting just to look at a little bit, is the way they describe this. In the red is the YouTube link when someone put it out there, and the blue represents when somebody just uploaded a video, maybe from their phone or from their computer, directly to Facebook. And so this is, as you can see on the YouTube link, in terms of likes, comments, and shares, that trifecta of things on Facebook particularly, when you look at the 3 options, you get a little bit more likes on from YouTube links. But on the other side, you get a few more comments when things are shared on directly from a Facebook video. But then you get more shares when you put a YouTube link up there. And so I think that's just something to wrestle with and look at. It certainly validates that putting things on YouTube first and then sharing that link over to Facebook works really, really well. You might get a few less comments generally, but you certainly get a lot of likes, and more importantly, I think you get shares. And so creating that content out on, again, Vimeo or YouTube gives you that content both on YouTube and gets it to you on the Facebook platform. So now you're kind of getting two places where that video is being shared. And so I like that idea of creating content on YouTube, even though I can see some value of putting it on the Facebook page directly. But I just thought it was an interesting graph. Okay, so now the fourth element is this is an issue of concern when you talk about visual content strategy. What kind of photos do we've already taken 1,000 photos of you on your campus and things like that. So now what do we do about stock imagery? And I think it's a really important question because I think there are times where you should have some stock images. Sometimes, again, talking with potential, when you're talking with schools, a lot of times there's a concern, a privacy concern about the use of children faces. Now, I think that as long as the parents agree to a signed document saying, whether you say, a lot of times they'll create it in the negative where it says if you do not want to be your child to be listed on any social media platforms or on the website or in any marketing materials, you need to have them sign. And I would make sure you have that information updated to include the social media platforms and the online presence to make sure, because you probably have something that says I don't want my kid used in the brochure, but you need to include that a broader sense online as well. So there's some times where you need some imagery, but you don't want to always use the kids' faces. Or sometimes they just need a different kind of look, and you want to create some information, or you just don't have time to create some of the imagery that you need for good, stunning visual strategy on Facebook. And there's some great places to go to get that, and we'll share that link in just a second. But let me back up. One of the things about stock photography that I don't like is the bad use of stock photography. And some of these illustrations, I just think these are hysterical. I mean, when you see these, the ones up in the top right-hand corner, I wonder if any of you on your admissions team ever looks like that. Or when you're on a Friday, is this what you do in the middle of the page? Is this on the Friday afternoon after all the kids are gone and your week's out? Do you lay out on the floor with your laptop? And I just think they're just kind of awkward, funny, weird stock photo. And I don't know what the guy in the balloons is doing. Maybe that's the head of school. I don't know what he's doing. And the one that really, I think the worst one that drives me the craziest is the guy on the left who writes backwards somehow. I mean, talk about impossible. I'm not sure how he writes the word impossible backwards. But these kind of obvious stock photos just seem really overdone and just over the top. And it just seems like we probably ought to limit how much we use this kind of stuff. But there are places and times where you want to use stock photography. And I'll tell you, that's not all super expensive either. So we're going to share with you another link. If you'll go to our website and then /stock photos, you're going to come up to a place where you can find, again, this is a redirect to an article that gives you all the different places you can find free high-resolution stock photo, which means you can use it, you can download it and use it as often as you want. There's no royalty to pay, no royalty fees. It also gives you a link to some places like the well-known iStock photo, which is not free, but you certainly get some very low-cost images. And so I would definitely look at that article at yourschoolmarketing.com/stock photos. I think you're going to find some really good resources just to have on hand when you need that brochure, or even on Instagram when you're looking at some content, visual content that's really well done. If you've got a good photographer or students who can take some good photography, you might even want to say to them, hey, can you go find some things that look like stock photography, but let's use our own people and not just have models from iStock photo in there. Okay, so now let's go on to the fifth element, I believe, and that is the fun part. Now we get into the real fun part, particularly when it comes to photos and images, and this is styling it, and this is what you do. This is what has kind of got the rage when it comes to visual content is particularly, I guess, Instagram has kind of driven this, certainly had the ability to do certain things, whether it's Facebook content or content that you put on your website. Obviously, putting some filter to it, styling it up, making it look nice, has existed since Photoshop existed. But I think with the introduction of Instagram, I think they pretty much made this mainstream and started seeing this across the board. And even apps, so many apps have been created for the smartphones that allow you to do this. It's unreal, and I'll share with you another link to those. But let's just look at an example of what I'm talking about. This is a photo that I took from a retreat at our church this past weekend for high schoolers. And so the theme was anchor, and so they gave us all these little plastic anchors to hand. And so this was just a little 1 inch by 1 inch anchor. So I took a photo of it laying on I guess a kind of a brick hearth of the fireplace. And I put that, it's a decent photo there, but I wanted to post it on Instagram with a Bible verse on top of it, which was the theme of the retreat. And so again, taking it to Instagram, I was able to transform and style this photo and create an image that I think is much, much better than the original one would be. And that's this one right here you see. So now we're able to color it a little bit. I mean, I did this in literally just a few seconds by just typing that Bible verse on top, using a particular app, and then coloring it and putting the borders on it. That really took me no time at all, and I did it all in the palm of my hand. And so that's pretty phenomenal that we're able to do that, because while many of us have Photoshop, Donnie and I use Photoshop or Photoshop Elements extensively. You can do that to some extent, even an app on the phone that has that. But you can do so much filtering with that tool. But many people don't have that tool, that software. It can be, the full version can be pretty expensive, but even the Photoshop Elements, while not very expensive, it might be more of a learning curve. Instagram has kind of mainstreamed all these applications that allow us to basically become these wonderful, stunning graphic, photo journalists out there with amazing graphics, and we're just doing them from little apps that we get. And sometimes these apps are free or they cost 99 cents, and so it's really amazing the kind of things that we see. So styling it is very important. I wanted to share with you another link. I know these are a lot of links, but again, this is when it particularly relates to Instagram. We're going to talk about Instagram in just a little bit more in depth, but I'll have this link here. This goes to a page where I have kind of started the process of trying to put together a series of tools that people who love Instagram and want to start using it for your school. There's so much out there that you can do, but so I've tried to put it all in one place for you called IG Tools. So go to our website, yourschoolmarketing.com/IG Tools, and you will be taken to an article. There's so many articles there. You can click through and see what we're doing on Instagram, which is really fun because you'll see a lot of pictures of my dog. But other than that, you'll see a lot of other things that we're doing as well. But there's, more importantly than that, there's links to so many good articles from other brands, even how to use it in schools. And so there's so many articles, and listed there is there's a couple of articles that specifically mentions some of the Instagram apps. So if you've always wondered, well, how do I create that little thing that Randy did with that anchor? Or I see all my friends on Instagram or their photos are coming over into my Pinterest or my Facebook feed, and they look so cool, but I don't know how they did that. I bet one of these articles is going to show you an app that you can download to your smartphone that will create that. So I think that's going to be kind of fun for you to do, is go to that page and look at those tools. And so now we're getting into, I believe this is number 6. We're going to actually begin the last few of these elements. 6, 7, 8, 9 will all deal specifically with one of the platforms. So as we learn, as we've talked about this visual content strategy, we've got to understand the importance of socializing this visual content. How do we work within these social platforms? And so what we want to do first is just look at, and then this is not a near enough time to talk about all best practices related to Facebook or Instagram, but just in the amount of time that we have, we want to introduce just a few things about each one of these platforms that either some of you may not know, some of you may need to, some of the hopefully be some new things, but just want to reinforce some of the basic things about using these platforms. So we'll start with Facebook first, and we'll look at the some of the things related to that. Now there's we talked about videos first, and I'm going to look at that first because we already addressed the idea of uploading directly some of your videos from your smartphone, or if you have another camera device and you link that up to your computer, and then you got to upload the video there. There's some things that would be good there, so you might consider. This is where you start testing things. Is upload some videos from your computers, from your phone, and try that, and then upload a similar kind of video, not the same one, but a similar genre of video, and put it over on YouTube, and then share the link over to it, and kind of get in your mind which one gets more likes and comments and shares. So you do your own little version of that graph that we saw a few slides back, and look at that and see what works for you better. What does your audience like? Do they like the videos uploaded directly, or do they like to see the YouTube link in there that does still play right into their newsfeed, but it gives you a chance to test that out? So you got to kind of look at whether you're sharing the link or uploading directly. So related to video, you want to think in terms of those two items when it comes to Facebook and the use of video. Now on photos, something that a lot of people, all photos in some extent can be seen in their entirety. If you click through on the photo and look at it, you're going to be able to see the entire photo. But what Facebook basically forces you to do, especially if you're on the mobile app on a smartphone, it's going to shrink that photo down to a certain size so it can be viewed on that smartphone. So you could it might look different on the desktop version, but on the phone, you want to optimize your photos as often as you can for that square look. And particularly, there's a dimension. If you're creating a file size, and you have the ability to do this, particularly in something like Photoshop, you can do a 400 by 400 pixel dimension. One of the cool things, if you struggle through or are enjoying the new, if you have an iPhone and you upgraded to the iOS 7, then one of the things that is allowing you to do when you take a photo, it actually has a square feature on it, where you can before you would have to go into another app of some sort and create a square. Now you can do it right from your phone. So when you're taking a photo, you can actually take it in the square format, which is really, really cool. So you want to do that. And we'll talk about a little bit, another example just coming up, but you want to make sure when you upload a photo, try to include some description of what you're talking about. Again, it's one thing to upload a whole bunch of photos of something that went on your campus, but again, thinking through that external audience who doesn't know the players, they don't know the people in the photo. It's really hard sometimes to look back at content and go, well, that's kind of neat, but again, when you're thinking about people sharing stories of people, I need to know a little bit more about those people in those photos. So tell me a little bit about who they are. Give me some names, something about them. Again, talk to those external audiences as well as your internal audience. Certainly put links to external websites or things like that. Maybe even Twitter, Instagram, something like that, where people can click that link and then hop on over to another site. So you can include a photo that will have a description and then have a link to it as well. And then certainly encourage your people, your loyal ambassadors on your campus to use tagging feature when they're posting photos. Make sure they tag the school, especially whether they check in or if they just go home later on and they want to mention their school. Maybe encourage them to tag your school in those Facebook photos. You'll see the picture on the left, Dave Ramsey. One of the things that I noticed looking at and many of you know Dave Ramsey, financial guru out there. If you go to his Facebook page, and I don't know the exact URL, but if you search for Dave Ramsey page, you'll find it pretty quickly. One of the things I noticed, he gets a lot. Of course, he's known worldwide, so he has a lot of likes and comments and shares. But if you go back through and look, I just did a quick search in the first couple of pages of his Facebook page, so probably the last couple of weeks, and he gets a lot of comments and likes and shares on the text posts that he does. But I think whenever he posts an image like this, and again, this is a photo with text overlaid on top of it, and then there is kind of a branding. I've seen him do different things where he's had a website link. You've got this, I don't even know, triples or quadruples in the number of likes and comments and shares. So again, think about content like this you could create so that it encourages the people who are following you to share that more. One of the things that we wanted to talk about was a timeline cover photo. This is an idea that I think a lot of people miss. Is you've got your timeline cover photo, but whenever you have your timeline cover photo, that big image at the top, I would change it often. Maybe not every day, but I would certainly maybe once a week or certainly once a month look at a way to have your timeline cover photo. And I'm sorry, what? Yes, this is on your school page, your school timeline cover. I wanted to clarify what I was talking about. So when you're talking about your timeline cover photo, look for a way to do that. And now timeline covers photos used to have a lot of restrictions on them, and so now they don't. So now you can put more information on that page, on that timeline cover photo, than you used to be able to do. You used to not be able to have a link to your website, but now you do, and you can actually do some more promotion. So think of their timeline cover photo almost as a big, large advertisement. So I want to show you something we did yesterday for one of our clients, Covenant Life School, is uploaded their, the one on the top left is their new timeline cover photo. So again, took that into, that's a kind of a Photoshop deal, and put some of their stuff there and their branding, and took some pictures and put that together. But here's what happens. We uploaded, when we update the timeline cover photo, we change that out. That goes out, and you've probably seen this. It happens in personal profiles, but it also happens in organization pages like your schools. That will go out into the newsfeed of people that follow your school. It goes out there as your school updated their timeline cover photo. Well, think of that as a big, large ad that you get to put out there for free. Now, again, I wouldn't do this every day. I wouldn't go crazy in the self-promotion about this, but there's times where you could do something about an open house. You could put that into there. Know that later on it sits on the top of your Facebook page, so you want to change that if it gets outdated. But one of the things that we wanted to point out was, as you update your timeline cover photo, you want to go back in to your photos. You'll have to do this as an admin of your page. Go back into that photo and then add a description. You can go back in and edit that photo. Just like any other photo, you can edit it and add a description. And so we went back in and added a description and put a link, some text, and then added a link to their website. So again, that is a direct link. So then now someone could go back in and look at that photo and be able to click through and see, go right to your website. So again, using that timeline cover photo wisely, taking advantage of that big real estate that you have there, but then going back in later and making sure you add the description of that. All right, so we have about 10 or 15 minutes left, and so we want to go through and finish up here as we look at Pinterest. One of my favorites, and we've done something on ours, yourschoolmarketing.com /Pinterest. You can go to see what we've been doing on Pinterest. And we've created, I don't know how many, 20-something boards. And again, we're trying to keep in mind, going back to that strategy of our audience, what is important to them, what are some of their concerns, what do they want to look at, and then trying to provide solutions. And so, of course, a lot of ours is informational and educational, but we've categorized our boards according to things like Instagram and Pinterest and videos or search engine optimization or open houses or how to get more word of mouth or how to recruit new students, the admissions process. I mean, we've kind of basically created a couple of dozen boards around the topics that I think are important to our audience, many of you in this audience today. So I think I would hope that you'd be able to go to our page and look at our Pinterest page and see what we're doing on the boards. But let me show you some things that we want to do with this, because again, you want to create one of the basic things that I see in Pinterest. Now, you can upload a photo right into Pinterest, but there's some things about that you want to make sure you want to create the kind of content and put it out on your site first, your website. Because again, the idea is you want to, one of the benefits that does not yet exist in Instagram is that click-through ability on Pinterest. So you want to create some really neat content, visual content, and put it out on your site first. Because this is this is that candy. This is the magnetic content. We want to get people back to your site So you put the content on your site. So create specific content for specific audiences. Again, maybe categorizing your family profiles according to lower school or upper school, or things that are related to dads or moms. That would be important. And create content on your page. This is why it's great to have a good dynamic website like a WordPress site or something like that, where you can really be in the driver's seat of your website, creating pages with very specific content that have an image on it, then pin that image over to a specific board. Now, certainly you want to pin other people's stuff, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, but you want to put this content on your site, and then in the photo itself, when you upload that photo, try to make sure you have some good keywords. I would like to include a title. A lot of times I'll go to pin an image, and it's whatever the camera, that file name of the JPEG that camera gives it. A lot of times it starts with a D and then an underscore and then a bunch of numbers. Well, go back into your description of your photos on your website and pin that, and then change the description to include some real good keywords and a title of what that page is about, so that when somebody goes to pin it, they don't have to. A lot of times people don't take the time to rewrite the description. They'll just pin it as it is. You want to include keywords in that description, so when it goes to pin, in the description on the board where it's been pinned, or the description of the pin, you want to have those keywords there, so that way as it goes out into the news feed, and then also as it relates to the search feature of Pinterest, you want to have that good keyword rich content. So again, when you go to pin it, it'll just really increase the ability of people to find your school, as well as to share that content with other people and pin that stuff that you've been pinning. All right, so when we go to pin and we want to create, again, these are some of the best practices. We want to create boards that your audience is really interested in. Don't just focus on, again, it can't just be about self-promotion about your school. While you can certainly include, and we do some of this ourselves, about things that are related to us, but you create boards that are related to your audience. And you can do some fun things as well, that showcases your brand. I mean, certainly, there's no reason why you couldn't have some fun if you have a mascot called the Wildcats, and take a bunch of pictures of Wildcats, or students doing some fun things with Wildcats, or dressed up as if you're a warrior and you want to have if you have a dress up day at your school and you have a bunch of kids as dressed up as warriors, then you want to pin those kind of things under the warrior board, and that kind of stuff gets shared by people, and they like that. Your audience is going to like that, and they're going to eat that up. And so you want to create the content that's really fun, and it tells your story. Certainly you can pin videos, and so that you want to be able to do that. But certainly having family pages where somebody can tell a story or a video and then pin that over to your boards, that maybe, again, somebody could come to your Pinterest page and see family stories or family testimonials all in one board. That would be important to do. So you want to create that kind of content, but also be involved in the community and repin other people's stuff. Know your community, know your audience, know who they are. Find some other local businesses, local nonprofits, local people, those mom bloggers out there that pin a lot of stuff, that kind of type of audience. If they're involved in Pinterest, certainly your current families, find out who the pinners are on your campus, who the moms and dads who pin are, and find out and start following them and pin their stuff. So that's what you want to be about on Pinterest. Let me go to some of the things that people want to know is, what are other schools doing on Pinterest? And as best as this is hard to keep up with because it changes a lot, or it updates a lot, but we've tried to create, whenever we see a school that is doing a really good job pinning on Pinterest, we created a board around that. So you can actually go to our Pinterest page and then go to one of the boards called Private Schools Pinning and see what some of the other schools have done. As well, we've posted some articles that are important for schools when they're thinking about some of the best practices about Pinterest. So you want to go to that board as well, and you can go to that with this. I was going to say it's a short link, but it's rather long. yourschoolmarketing.com/Pinterest-PSP for Private Schools Pinning. And so you go there and find out and follow some other schools on Pinterest. All right, so we got lots to still get through, but we're almost we're getting to the end. So we're going to go to Instagram next. This is, again, there's a lot of fun things we could do with Instagram. We could spend a whole hour talking about Instagram, but I wanted to again go through some of the things about Instagram. You want to, again, think in terms of that current format for Instagram, which is that square. Now theirs is a little bit larger pixel dimension, but again, creating that square content is going to be important, and they're going to force you to do that anyway, but that's why if you have a good app or with the new iOS 7, you can create your content initially in a square format. But think in terms of squares, and then look at the filters. And again, I've given you the link to our website /IG Tools, and you can find all the apps there that will give you all the different filters. There's so many fun things you can do with overlaying text, different photo filters, different coloring, different borders. Again, you can just really become just a whiz at some of this stuff. And you can do collages, and so you can have multiple pictures all on one image. I mean, there's so many fun things. I would certainly, if you have the ability like Photoshop or even some way to put text on the photo, it's, maybe have, I don't know, you might have a watermark if it's really content that you want to protect, or certainly even brand. You want to have your a website on it. Again, those you can't link from Instagram. You can't click through, but at least make it. If you followed us on Instagram, you'll notice that, of course, yourschoolmarketing.com is already a fairly long URL. But when we were driving people to these webinars like this, we would go to school. We created a URL called schoolmarketingwebinars.com, and that all redirects to our page about the webinar. So there's a way that we can create shorter URL. You might want to think about that in terms of a marketing URL that can drive somebody to an open house or some sort of marketing event that you have. Again, follow your audience. Know who the Instagrammers are on your campus, and follow them and like their stuff. Find out who your audience likes to follow, maybe celebrities or well-known pastors or anything like that, musical artists, and find out what they're doing and follow them as well. Double tap like crazy. You want to participate and like different things. Don't just look at things. Don't just scroll through your feed, but comment, make some likes, and then when it comes to video, this is again relatively new as this past summer, is they created the ability to Instagram to be able to do videos, and you can use external videos as well that you already have. So that you can do up to 15 seconds, and so you want to be able to do that. We've created another link that goes to a video. This is an external website, I believe, that talks about how to do this. It's a really good article. So we just created a short link. Go to our website, yourschoolmarketing.com/IG video, and again, that will take you to an article that tells you all about Instagram videos, a lot of fun stuff you can do with that. Students ought to have a good time with this. You might want to incorporate some of their work as well. Using hashtags, very big deal on Instagram. Those certainly, I didn't mention the importing this Instagram feed over to your Facebook page, I think is worthwhile. I think one of the things that seems like to me the Facebookers don't like, they don't mind your content coming over, but whenever you start, even though hashtags work on Facebook, I don't think they're catching on quite as much as they are on Instagram or Twitter. But I've heard some people complain, especially when in Instagram, we like to put on like 10 different hashtags on each picture we put out there. Well, that automatically feeds into your Facebook feed. Some people don't like that, and they feel a little bit the overused of the hashtag. So you want to monitor that. Maybe not do that every single time. So using a site called Tagboard is a site that we've come across that it's not foolproof, but it definitely gives you an idea to search on what hashtags are. Search a hashtag basically and see what it's being used on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram, and different platforms. And certainly before you use a hashtag, you might want to play around and see what's being tagged already under that hashtag. So make sure it's one thing to be able to say we want to enter ourselves into a hashtag so we can kind of overtake the hashtag with our stuff. But you have to keep in mind that when somebody clicks that hashtag, they see a bunch of other content as well with that same hashtag. So while you may want to hashtag something called passion, that I always tell people that passion may not mean the same thing to you as it does some other people. They may have a different understanding of what passion is. So one thing we didn't mention, we didn't spend a lot of time with, but of course Vine was the original mobile video short mobile video before Instagram really caught on. So there's an article called yourschoolmarketing.com/Vine app, and that gives you some tools on using Vine. Again, it's a 6-second video, so again, some fun things you can do, but you're limited to 6 seconds, whereas 15 seconds with Instagram. All right, we'll do a quick thing at the end with YouTube, and then we'll be finished. And so we go to YouTube, and again, we've talked about YouTube and Vimeo, and so I'm not going to reiterate that. But when you're doing, we want to encourage people to subscribe to your YouTube channel. I think they get an email notification, but also it's more importantly is when they're on video, their own YouTube channel, they will see when you upload a new video. And so you want to encourage people to subscribe there. Certainly put a lot of good keywords in those descriptions. I like the idea of even when you're doing a keyword, claim kind of a unique, it's almost like a hashtag, but it's just a keyword that's unique to your school. That's what we've monitored at least a little bit, and it seems like more of the related videos, it shows more of your videos if you're using kind of like a hashtag is now, but a keyword that keeps people they able to see all of your videos, not all of them all at one time, but YouTube will put more of your other videos with that same keyword in it. Make sure your URL is listed in the description. We like to put it at the very first of the description so it doesn't get truncated if your description is rather long. So put that very first because that will hyperlink over. And then I like the idea of creating YouTube. This is why you sometimes want to create private videos on YouTube because you don't want everything to be seen out there on your public YouTube channel. One of the ideas that we had was a school creating kind of like almost word of mouth referral videos where a family might say, we want to create a video for the school about our family's story, and then putting that content out on a private link and be able to share that link with some other people. But maybe it's not out there on the public channel, but you can use that and email that link out to certain families or put that link on a certain web page where it can be seen, but it wouldn't be just public out there on the YouTube channel. So there's some things you can do with that. One of the things that we wanted to add to this, because Donnie's done a good job of understanding annotations on the YouTube, and this is where the kind of pop-up windows that will come up as you're watching the YouTube video in YouTube, or it actually watches it even if it's embedded, I think, on Facebook or on your website. As you're watching the video, it will pop up windows that'll tell you prompters and give you some behind-the-scenes information. But one of the things that will allow you to do is actually you can hyperlink to another video within YouTube. You can't do it unless you have a real prominent channel. You can't link to an external website, but you could say, hey, here's a link about all of our athletics. Now go here to read to listen to a video specifically from our volleyball coach, and you could go from there. And so really, it's like keeping somebody in that on your YouTube channel for a long time because they're watching one video after another, and it just really creates that stepping stone for them to go to. So that's a real quick run through, and again, we've created a link there, yourschoolmarketing.com/YouTube and like YouTube annotations, and that will take you to this video that we've done on our YouTube channel where Donnie describes how to use and how to put annotations in your video. Man, that's a lot. 9 elements. We talked about strategy. We talked about capturing the videos and the photos, where to store it, the use of stock imagery, and then having fun styling it, and creating all the fun filters on it. And then we looked at Facebook, Pinterest, Instagram, and then now YouTube. And certainly we could just go on and on and on. But we wanted to give you this 9 elements today because I think when you understand this, and this is going to be a lot of information, but we wanted to give that to you. In addition, we have a free gift for you, and it's actually 2 different things that we wanted to give to you. If you will, and you can see it there at our website, yourschoolmarketing.com. You can follow us on all those different channels, but we've given you a free gift called 50 social media tips. So, and a lot of these 50, I guess all of the 50, are all social media related, and so you'll see some ideas of how to use Instagram and Pinterest and YouTube. And so we go through all the different platforms, and we've compiled a list of 50 different things to do, just different ideas that you can do when you're kind of stuck and you're not sure what to do or what to post. This gives you a lot of different kind of go-to tips page. It's free download, absolutely free. One of the things that you'll get in, I think you'll be taken to a page where somebody can where you can download. After you send us your address, the email address, it will give you the download link where you can do that. But one of the things we also, with that, is to create an offering for you that if you want to discuss this any further, if you're like, hey, I just want to talk to them about Instagram, I wish I could just pick their brain a little bit about Instagram, or tell me more about this Facebook thing. I want to know. I want you to help examine our Facebook page. We'll do that. We're giving you, everybody who wants to, if you download this 50 tips, then you can get a free 30-minute consultation with us. It's absolutely no obligation. We're not going to try to sell you on a bunch of stuff. We're just there to listen to the challenges that you have. So anything that we've gone over today, and you want to have 30 minutes with somebody just to pick our brain about things, we want to do that. I've been doing it all week long from our previous webinar, and so I want to do it with many of you. Sign up there, get your 50 social media tips, and then you'll be given a link to where you can sign up to get in touch with us, and we'll set up a schedule and get that 30-minute consultation. Again, we can talk to you about anything you want during that time. So again, I want to thank you for your time today. We've kind of gone over just a minute or two over. Appreciate your patience, but again, go and download the 50 tips, free gift from us, and we look forward to providing future webinars about other social media topics. We might even go deeper with, just one of these probably, but we love your feedback as well. If you have any questions, go to our website, and there's a contact form, and you can shoot us an email there and say, hey, I'd love it if you guys would do a webinar on this particular topic. We'd love to have that kind of feedback from you. And again, go join us on Facebook and Twitter and all those different places. Follow us, get more ideas for marketing your school. But again, go to yourschoolmarketing.com/50tips, and we'll close out our day-to-day like that. And we'll leave this up on the screen just a few minutes so you can grab that link. So thank you for joining us today, and we'll see you at the next webinar from yourschoolmarketing.com.